It's always at the hands of Canada, isn't it? Well, yesterday we had ourselves Team Canada defeat Team Slovakia at the IIHF World Championships, and as a result of this game, the Slovaks are officially out. And with this in mind, we did have ourselves some extra conversations to go over when it comes to the debatably, do I want to say even probably, most popular Slovak on the team, Montreal Canadiens forward Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, the Slovaks ended up losing their final game of the tournament 6-3 against Canada. If you wanted to go over and talk about who produced, who scored points, and who looked good, okay, well, the box score is all over here. First goal of the game scored by Jared McCann, followed up by Pierre-Luc Dubois. Peter Cehlarik then got the Slovaks on the board to bring it within one. But that's when Canada started to really put on the pressure. In the second and third periods, you had yourselves Nick Paul, Dylan Guenther, and Brandon Tanev each scoring, before you had Milos Kelemen and Marek Hrivik go out there and bring things back, followed up by Nick Paul with a minute to go to give Canada that 6-3 lead. Juraj Slafkovsky had one assist on the Peter Cehlarik goal from earlier in the first, so even in the games that Team Slovakia ends up losing, you have Slafkovsky going out there and producing points. In fact, if you go over to his overall point progression on the tourney, he's got 8 points in 8 games played, all of them assists, and if you look at his game log, you'll see that he's been a very consistent point-producing machine. He had 2 points in the Germany game, 1 against Kazakhstan, 0 against the States, where he ended up beating Cole Caulfield, which I think in and of itself is good enough bragging rights. And then against Poland, France, Latvia, Sweden, and Canada, Slafkovsky each had 1 assist, with increasing ice time too. He played 21 minutes against Latvia, 22 against the Swedes, and 20 against Team Canada. So Juraj Slafkovsky was one of the more utilized players on this Slovak forward core. With this in mind, though, what I wanted to do was go over to Juraj Slafkovsky's interview after the World Championship loss to Canada. This is after the entire tournament. No more Slovakia hockey we'll see at the IIHF 2024 Worlds. And big shout out over to Luby on Twitter, who went out there and translated the Juraj Slafkovsky article. They say that there might be some language mistakes, but still, I think the picture that they tweeted out was good enough. Big shout out once again to Luby. The question that was asked to Juraj Slafkovsky to open up the video interview in Slovak language, of course. You guys lost to a favorite Team Canada squad 3-6. How did you see today's game? Slafkovsky said, well, I don't know. They scored 6 goals and we lost, so it's too bad. They're a good team, of course. We could have done some things different. I don't know. Simply, I don't know. And you can kind of see it in the video interview too. The guy is just kind of, I don't want to say he's like out of it, but you can definitely tell that him losing and not being in the tournament anymore is kind of getting to him a bit. He's an emotional guy who wants to win, so of course he's gonna have a bit of a reticence to answering questions like this. Even though in some interesting stats, the Slovak team was better than Canada, we had better puck handling in the offensive zone. Did you expect this result to happen? Well, Juraj Slafkovsky says, those are the stats I wouldn't really be looking at when hockey is played based off of who scores more goals. At the end of the day, of course, they did not score as many goals as the Canadian squad, even though some of the advanced metrics might say that Slovakia had a good chance. Slafkovsky is keeping it real, and I do appreciate that. At least, we finally scored a goal during the power play, but it probably came too late. What were we missing during the World Championships during power plays that we weren't successful in them? Slav replies and says, well, in my opinion, they were missing some goals, and I don't know, simply sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it didn't work for us. But I think we fulfilled it other ways. And so with this in mind, you take a look at the interview itself. Juraj Slafkovsky is focused so much on just the idea of winning and being very blunt about, yeah, we just didn't win. We didn't. Sure, we did some things well, but we did not end up getting more goals than they did. And the disappointment is immeasurable, and quite frankly, it seems like his day might be ruined. And in fact, when it comes to this quality, you had Stefan Buchan go out there and tweet this out from the tournament. Juraj Slafkovsky was also asked if it was too much to expect leadership from a 20-year-old guy. No. Why? I want to be a leader. I want to show it every game, Slafkovsky said. When I sometimes got frustrated, it wasn't because I was angry with someone. I just wanted to win and do everything to do that. So it does kind of speak more volume to that attitude that he's got. Not like, oh, attitude, he's got attitude issues, but like, he's got a certain swagger and a presence to him that is really dedicated and honest. It's almost like you can tell this is what the Canadiens and the media in Montreal were talking about when they said that, yeah, it takes like a certain kind of personality to be drafted first overall and to excel, especially if you're not like generational level talent good. Like, you kind of have to have a certain flair to what it is that you say and how it is that you lead on the ice, how you talk about stuff, in order to survive, really, as a first overall guy with all these expectations, especially in a Canadian market like Montreal. Sure, guys like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby can be boring, but they have the right to be boring. Their talent on the ice speaks for itself. And I'm not using that as a shot on Juraj Slafkovsky, but, you know, I think we can all reasonably say that Slafkovsky is not going to be McDavid Crosby level good, so if he could make up his leadership and bolster up his offensive profile in other ways, then okay, great, there's value there from a first overall pick like Slafkovsky, and him being a point-per-game guy at the World Championships is a good step, considering that he did not spend an extended amount of time with any Slovak hockey team ever since his draft season 2 years ago. I mean, he went cold last year because he was hurt, and then the year before that when he was draft eligible, it was like, okay, Olympics, Olympic game qualifier, World Championships, World Under-18s. He was so good everywhere and in the TPS playoffs, which is pretty much what bolstered him up to being a second option for first overall behind Shane Wright. Now, we all kind of recognize that he did get taken first overall, but now it's like, yeah, no, the Habs were right. This guy does have that great swagger, and I think as the years go on, it'll be pretty soon until we see Juraj Slafkovsky don an A on his sweater. The guy just kind of knows what it takes to be that motivator and be some sort of a second in command, you could say, to what Nick Suzuki provides. Because, of course, Suzuki has been around this team for a while. He was here getting accustomed to the Canadiens when you had guys like Shea Weber and Philippe Deneau and Gallagher, all these leadership caliber guys. And he learned very well. So just because there are a bunch of older dudes that you can learn from does not mean that the younger dudes do not have value. And Slafkovsky is kind of right there. In fact, this was pointed out as well during and after the tournament, but Juraj Slafkovsky, if you take a look at U20 point producers at the World Championships this year, was amongst the top of the class, with some other very notable names also sharing that spotlight. Most notably, Connor Bedard has one fewer point in the same games played as Juraj Slafkovsky, and then of course there are some other names: Simon Nemec, Slafkovsky's teammate on Slovakia, Michael Branson-Newgard, draft-eligible player for Norway, Oscar Fisker-Molgaard, Seattle prospect out of Denmark. Lots of guys from teams that you wouldn't normally expect. I mean, it's rare to see teenagers make the World Championships anyway, but I feel like that's a lot more common for the North American teams. Even the guys that made Team USA, not really too productive. Ryan Leonard, Will Smith, Gavin Brindley each had 1 or 0 points on the entire tournament. So either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about how Juraj Slafkovsky has come out here and had himself a pretty good tournament. But from the comments that we had seen, it is quite obvious that he is disappointed in the result of losing 6-3 to his buddy Caden Gooley. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Juraj Slafkovsky and his leadership. I hope you enjoyed this British 9, and bye.